Good morning. This is Andy. I'm sorry we were a little late getting started this morning. Trying to see the number of people, but I don't see that. People who are on the WebEx may notice that we have a picture up called What is Fit 5. In a couple minutes, I'll introduce, we have a guest with us this morning, Nicole Preston, who's the Executive Director of Special Olympics DC, is going to talk to us a little bit about encouraging some healthy activities. I'll just, by way of introduction, also provide people an update. As people are aware, the information regarding COVID for people who are supported by DDS is on the mayor's website each day on the coronavirus.dc.gov website. But to date, we have had 185 people who have tested positive. And unfortunately, we have had 25 of those people who have died since the beginning of this. 10 people are currently hospitalized. There were 61 people who required inpatient care, but have since been discharged. And 89 people who did not require inpatient care have been treated on an outpatient basis. The breakdown in terms of the kinds of placements those people are in, 2 of them were people from host homes. 66 are people in intermediate care facilities. 12 were living in their own home. 2 were in a nursing home. 25 in residential habilitation placements, and 78 were in residential habilitation placements. And I'm going to provide you the staff numbers after Nicole provides her presentation. I'm very happy. Nicole, I know, has come to Project Action. Many of the folks who may be on the call are really familiar with Special Olympics DC, and so she's going to provide us some helpful information this morning. So I'll turn it over to Nicole now. Thank you. Nicole?
Nicole, you're muted. You're still muted. There you go.
Okay, thanks. You've unmuted me?
Yes, you're unmuted.
Great. All right, thank you, Director, and thank you, everyone, for allowing us to be on the call this morning. As she said, I'm with Special Olympics DC, and I know many of you are familiar with us, but for those who aren't, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what we provide. We have year-round sports for children and adults with intellectual disabilities from all ages, from 2 to 92. Someone earlier asked me, what age you can start. We have programs as young as 2, and then for sports and competition, official Special Olympics participation starts at 8 years old. We have 10 sports, and those are offered in youth and adult sections. We have basketball, bowling, soccer, tennis, bocce, golf, track and field, volleyball, flag football, and speed skating. So there's a little something for everyone at all ability levels. All of our sports are always adapted for any physical limitations or ability level. So everyone can compete, everyone can participate, no matter what. We also have a program called Unified Sports that brings people with and without intellectual disabilities together on sports teams and that helps build community and friendship, and everyone has a great time playing together. Most people know us for sports, but we also have other programs that are great as well. We have our Young Athletes program for kids 2 to 7 years old, and that helps develop pre-sport skills, gets kids with and without disabilities together, helps develop motor skills and social emotional learning, those sort of things. So we have a great program for that. We also provide health services. We have a Healthy Athletes, Healthy Communities program that provides free health services and health screenings and helps find if athletes may have an issue that needs to be referred on to doctors for additional care. And we have our schools program. Unified Champion Schools engages youth in the schools in leadership roles to help create a climate of acceptance and respect and empowerment among all students in school. We do that in DC public schools, private schools, charter schools, all around the city. Lastly, we have our Athlete Leadership Program, and that provides a big curriculum for our athletes to improve their public speaking, to become leaders, and they help lead our organization and help us say what sports and programs we're going to do. They represent us to the media and have great experiences outside of what we do here in the city. So, but all of that sadly is on hold right now due to the COVID-19. But while we can't get together to play our sports together, we want everyone to still stay fit at home. So important to keep your fitness up and ready so that when we can get back on the field, everyone's ready to go. So we have a program called Fit 5, what you see on the screen. So Fit 5, the goals are to exercise 5 days a week, eat 5 total fruits and vegetables per day, and drink 5 water bottles per day. So we just keep that 5 in mind, and if we do things in 5s every day, we'll improve our health and our fitness. So I'm going to scroll through and show you parts of the program. So first 5 is exercise. We want to exercise.
Nicole, I don't see your presentation up on the screen.
I don't know what happened. I scrolled it. Did that make it go away?
Yes.
All right. You see it now?
It's thinking. There it is.
All right. Technology. All right. We've got 4 types of exercise. So we have endurance, strength, flexibility, and balance. So I'd love for everyone right now, everybody, we're all sitting in front of screens a lot that we've been at home, right? Either computers or televisions. So I want everybody to get ready to move a little bit, whether you can stand or do it from sitting, from your wheelchair, from your bed, wherever you are. I want, if you can, stand up if you want to stay seated. But what we're going to do is take a deep breath in with our arms up and let it out. All right, let's do one more deep breath in all the way up and let it out. So let's remember to do that and get your body moving a little bit when you're sitting with screens so much while we're at home. So we have these types of exercises. So we'll start with endurance. So endurance is making sure that you can run and do more every day. And so there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can do it by a brisk walk, a run, a bike ride, or dancing. So that's one of the favorites you can do easily at home. put on your favorite music video, your TikTok video, whatever it is, and, do some vigorous dancing for the length of the song. And that can be your fun exercise that's good for stress and that's good for your heart and everything else. So dancing is one of the good things you can do. If you can get outside, now that things are beginning to open up, you can go out safely, socially distanced, and have a nice walk or a bike ride. Okay. While you're at home, you can do exercises like jumping jacks or these kind of quick punches. So we can do these together right now. Put your both hands, your fists up like this, elbows down, and then just turn and punch. Make sure you're not near anybody. Don't punch anybody. Stretch your arms and do your punches. This is good exercise for your arms and your shoulders. You can do it seated, standing, whatever you can do. All right? So that's just an example of one of the good exercises you can do from home. Do 10 sets of that and keep it going. And there's more examples here that you can go through, but I'm going to keep it going so we stay in our time frame. So strength is ability to build your muscles. So you want to do some exercises. And for these, you can use, if you don't have weights, dumbbells at home, you can always use cans of beans. You can use any kind of, heavy can or bottle or anything you have in the house. And of course, use your body weight just for push-ups and those sort of things. So you can do push-ups anywhere in your house. You can use a chair, as this is showing. And you can do push-ups against the wall or on the ground. So those are things to build up your muscle strength. Curl-ups, it's showing. So those are strength exercises. Now we go to flexibility. So we want to stay flexible. Be sure to stretch always before and after your exercises so you don't have injury. So it's always super important to stretch. So we did that a little bit with our arms up. You can always stretch over, lift your arm over your head and stretch over. Get that nice stretch down the side of your torso. And the other side. Stretch. Feel these stretch all down your side. That should feel really good when you're stretch sitting a lot. And this slide shows some other things you can do on the floor as well to stretch. And then you have balance. So balance is keeping you in control and helping you avoid falls as you exercise. So you can stand on one leg. You can swing your legs back and forth, stay on one leg, and you can walk on a line. You can make a straight line on the floor and practice balancing, walking foot over foot on that straight line. All right. So these are all kinds of exercises that you can do to reach your goals. And this little chart shows you days of the week, and you can put your activities that you're doing. So the next part of the Fit 5 is food and nutrition. So we want to eat 5 total fruits and vegetables every day. It's hard when you're stuck at home and people tend to snack more, and sometimes we don't snack on healthy things. So we want to stick to healthy foods. This shows you all kinds of good examples of healthy foods that you can eat in the different food groups. Talks about building a healthy plate and what you need to have on there and what the portions are. So there's little sports analogies here for your portions. You should eat a baseball size type of fruit or serving of pasta or vegetables. So you're eating a lot of these healthy items. Hockey pucks size of bread or beans or meat, and then a golf ball size of the higher fat things like cheese and nuts and nut butters. So that's a fun little sports guide to help you remember the types of portions you should eat to stay healthy. And it has suggestions for healthy meals here for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then healthy snacks. So if you find yourself snacking during the day while you're sitting on looking at your screens, working, playing video games, watching Netflix, whatever it is, these are some healthier snacks that you can have. Right. So we're gonna scroll past these things and go to hydration. So that's the third part of Fit 5, is 5 bottles of water every day. So water keeps us really healthy. It fuels your body. It keeps everything moving well. So you want to drink 5 bottles of water a day. It's great to keep a water bottle near you. I keep mine here on my desk, ready to drink throughout the day. And as it gets empty, go fill it up again and be able to keep your water going. So hydration is good. We want to always avoid dehydration. So you should never feel thirsty. You should always drink throughout the day, because by the time you feel thirsty, then you're starting to get dehydrated. So you want to always keep well hydrated. Also, there's a slide here about healthy beverage choices. Of course, water is the best, always for your body, but then moderate amounts of low-fat milk and juice, and then to avoid as much as you can the sodas and the energy drinks and sports drinks, because they have really high sugar content. So you want to keep those limited and focus on the water. Okay. So I'm going to scroll down a bit to our tracking sheet here. So there's a weekly exercise, nutrition, and hydration tracking sheet. So this makes it really easy to keep up with what you're doing. You check your box for that you've exercised today and how many minutes you did. You can check off as you're eating your fruits and vegetables in the pink row, and then check off in the blue row how many bottles of water that you drank during the day. And you give yourself a star if you reached your Fit 5 goal for the week in terms of your exercise, nutrition, and drinking your water. So that's our Fit 5 guide. This guide is available on our website at specialolympicsdc.org. specialolympicsdc.org. You'll find it, if anyone wants to go to the website right now and take a look, you'll find it under What We Do. And then if you mouse over What We Do, you'll get a drop down, and right at the bottom of that column, you'll see Stay Fit at Home. And we have lots of resources there. So in addition to this guide, there are exercise cards. There are also videos online with our athletes doing the exercises that you can follow along. And we also have a special program called School of Strength, and that features Special Olympics athletes with world wrestling stars doing workouts that you can do together online with your favorite stars from the wrestling world. So we have lots of great resources on that page that you can use to keep fit and do some fun exercising at home. And I also want to say, for any of you who want this guide and the exercise cards, we have the printed versions, and we're happy to mail them to anyone. So you can do it for yourself, for your family, for your group. If you're a provider and you want a group of them for, the people that you work with, we're happy to do that. So you can email us at info, INFO, at specialolympicsdc.org. So again, info, INFO, at specialolympicsdc.org. And just email us and say, I'd like to get the printed guides. Tell us how many you want, and we're happy to mail those out to you so that you can use them to keep fit and keep exercising and keep moving while we're inside due to COVID-19. So I think that's it for me. If anyone has any questions.
I just have one comment. I'm really happy that you're here today, Nicole, because I know you mentioned last week that you and your team are able to do Zoom workouts with folks.
We are.
So I know that the stay-at-home order has been lifted in DC, but but the gyms haven't. So that would be nice to still connect and work out, and that's a great resource that you and your team have. So how can folks access that resource to set up a time to, whether it's folks who are living in, I'm reading something, whether it's folks living in their homes or a provider contacting you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, either way, that info at specialolympicsdc.org address is great. We'll keep an eye out on that, and please reach out to us. We're very happy to schedule Zoom workouts with you. We'll talk with you and customize it to what you need, what your population is. Again, we have everything we do is always adjusted to the age and to the abilities of the people participating. So you let us know, who you are and what you'd like, and we will have a custom program for you. So we're very, very happy to do that, and very happy to schedule them for any of the providers, any of the families, and send out these materials. We have young athletes materials as well. So if you have the young ones between 2 and 7, happy to do a special young athletes Zoom program with them as well. So don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay. Thank you so much for presenting today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot. That was really helpful information, because I think, and before I do the questions, I'm going to talk some about the mayor's announcement this week that we are moving into stage 1 of reopening DC. But the information that you were providing is so important for people, because for a lot of reasons. One, even though the stay-at-home order ended, there's not a lot of places any of us can go yet. And so if we're going to exercise, we're likely doing it at home.
Yeah.
I was feeling guilty through most of your slides, but I thought I need that checklist at home. But what's really essential is that when we start looking at what these stages mean to people, for people who are considered at high risk, which would be people who have a high risk of having a serious outcome from COVID-19, which includes people who are elderly, which I was happy to see they now say is older than 65, and people with underlying health conditions like heart conditions, high blood pressure, respiratory conditions, diabetes, obesity. Almost all of these conditions are manageable and can be related to diet and exercise. And so for any of us who have any of those, following all of that, those 5 recommendations can help us stay outside of that high-risk population.
Absolutely.
We hope to get to the elderly population, but for all the others, there really are steps that we can take to manage our underlying health and stay as healthy as possible. And I do know for people staying at home, and for those of us busy, for everyone busy at work, you do lose track of being able, 30 minutes of exercise. At first I thought it said per week. I was okay. And then I saw 5 days per week. So it's a lot, and it's important because it means protecting our underlying health, which is very important in terms of outcomes from COVID-19. So what did the mayor announce this week? What she said is that we are now in stage 1 of reopening. And I had spoken to people before, and we can make it available again, the link to the Reopen DC Advisory Group recommendations. It walks through what the 4 stages of reopening look like. So as I said, stage 1 isn't going to look a lot different than the other stages. Restaurants can open to serve people outdoors. You still can't go into a restaurant and sit down to eat. You can carry away, you can do takeout food. Non-essential businesses can open for curbside business. So you still can't go in and you can do window shopping, but you can't get past the door. So, you can't go into stores to shop still. We can go out, but we've still got to make sure that we're wearing face covering. We still have to take all the same precautions we've been taking before. We reached stage 1 because we saw a decline in virus transmissions in DC. So we had to see a 14-day decline, and based on how they were counting it, we saw that. I will say for our own numbers within DDS, we really saw the most infections in mid to late April. In stage 1, you still shouldn't be getting together with more than 10 people. So while you can go out, it's still going to be a group of 10 people or fewer, and you still have to maintain social distance and wear face covering. What's really important, and we'll be talking with DDS staff later today, working remotely is still strongly encouraged. And people should be aware that working remotely is strongly encouraged until we get to stage 3. We're just now in stage 1, and today's just the first day. Stage 2 is defined as when we get to a point in COVID-19 where there is what they say is only localized transmission. And what that means is that the district right now is in the process of really ramping up their contact tracing at DC Health. Contact tracing is where the DC Health Department is able to contact each person who tests positive and trace who they have had contact with over the prior days so that they can either identify the source of that person's infection or also notify people of the risk to that person that they have had an exposure to someone who tested positive. Because of that, if you go to a restaurant, they're going to be collecting your name so that they will be able to do contact tracing. That came up when the mayor was presenting this the other day. But we're going to have to see some success with the implementation of contact tracing before we get to stage 2. And at stage 2, we're still at a point where remote work is strongly recommended. Gatherings then can be up to 50 people. And there'll be some additional activities with strong safeguards. For example, there'll be indoor dining allowed when we get to stage 2, but it's still going to be with a lot of the limitations we see now in terms of tables being 6 feet apart, limits on the number of people at a table, and those kinds of things. Stage 3 is when we have only what's called sporadic transmission, which means that kind of the virus is mostly controlled, but it breaks through in places. And at that point, higher risk activities with safeguards are allowed. So for example, swimming pools. I'm not sure that, well, hard for me to see how we get to stage 3 when it's still warm enough to go to an outdoor pool. But at that point, you can have a bit larger gatherings, up to 250 people. Remote work is still encouraged in stage 3. Travel outside the district can resume in stage 3. Prior to that, travel, meaning going away, is discouraged because you can go away to an area where there is more transmission and possibly bring it back. Stage 4 is where we are at what they call a new normal, and that won't be until we have an effective vaccine or cure. It's not explicitly spelled out as much in the DC guidelines, but what you will notice as you go into each of them is that people who are considered at high risk really continue to have limitations on what they should be doing until we get to stage 4. So I really encourage people to take a look at the Reopen DC Advisory Group recommendations. I think they're spelled out really clearly. It does give a lot of good information. I did want to just briefly, someone pointed out that I misspoke earlier because I said res have twice, and I meant supported living. The number of people who tested positive was 78. And amongst staff in provider locations, we have had 214 staff test positive. One of those worked at 2 different locations. And unfortunately, we've seen 6 staff who worked at provider locations die from COVID-19. So now we can, it seems there are some questions related to the reopening. If we can scroll.
There are. One sec.
Hello.
What are we talking?
Okay.
Let me double check. I'm on the phone.
So it sounds like people on the phone are not able to hear? You can't hear? Oh, no, he can hear. You can hear?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to start that answer over again because I don't know how much people might have missed. So far, we've received 8 stimulus checks, and those were sent to the Office of the Chief Financial Officer for processing. We did learn earlier this month that the stimulus checks are now being directly deposited into the city bank account, and OC funds for people who have designated DDS as their rep payee, which means that they pay them over to the provider. Late yesterday, we got notification that OCFO will be issuing checks not later than June 15th for more than 500 people whose stimulus funds have been sent out this month. DDS receives a monthly report from OCFO that gives us the details on the amount of money received during the prior month for each person. So we'll have access to all the city's receipt dates of stimulus monies.
Were you guys able to hear? There's one message that Andy's voice, Director Reese's voice was cutting out. So our interpreter seems to understand. Okay. Are there any other questions, if you can please? So the follow-up question is, so the OFCO,
So are people able to hear me at this point? Because it does seem that, okay, because it seems that it's people on the, not on the phone who are having trouble hearing. People on the phone could hear because we can check that across the hall. But people on the computer were having some trouble. It made it hear. So there was a question regarding the stimulus checks. As I said, those are happening the same way all payments happen from DDS, which is that it goes to the provider, and then the provider issues those funds to the person. It goes to the provider with a detail that shows the provider the funds for each person that they're the provider for. And they're responsible for then depositing into that person's account.
are there any other questions?
I see a question about whether there's another round of stimulus checks. I have not heard that the federal government is issuing a second round of stimulus checks at this point.
What are the exceptions to wearing masks?
I don't know that there is an exception to wearing masks. So there was a mayor's order put in place that required that masks be worn when people go to grocery stores. You know, there was a mayor's order that addressed face coverings for people in placements like those supported by DDS. And her most recent order was very clear that she wasn't changing anything in the prior guidance regarding masks. It is essential, maybe even more so, because if people are going to be going out, that people are careful about taking the steps necessary to reduce the risk of catching or giving to anyone COVID-19, which means regularly washing your hands, not touching your face, staying at least 6 feet away from other people, and wearing a mask in the event at times you're not able to stay that far from people, in part because, you know, you or I might be one of those people who it does not have symptoms, does not feel sick, but actually has this and could give it to someone else. But it's just, in terms of ensuring everyone's safety, it's very important to continue taking all of those steps that we've been taking all along, because we don't want to go back to having a stay-at-home order again.
And for those of you who dialed in, you can text questions to 202-590-7618, 202-590-7618.
So someone asked about DC public libraries. My understanding is that DC public libraries, like other non-essential businesses, will be open for curbside service. So for people who work there who might be interested, you may want to check in to see if it's possible that you might be one of the people that needs to be at work to deliver books to the curbside for people who wish to check books out.
DPR has announced opening of outdoor facilities. What do we know about availability of public restrooms?
I want to make sure also that people are aware, they did say that they're opening outdoor facilities, but team sports are still not allowed. So people are not allowed to go play basketball in a public court, because that involves getting closer than 6 feet away from a person, and it does involve activities that present a risk of transmission. The question about how they're handling bathrooms was raised, and it was not answered. I think the important thing will be, and like I say, unfortunately, I did not hear an answer. I heard the mayor's press conference, and I didn't see an answer to that. The important thing is just going to be the reminders about, to the extent those are open, what it means is that people are going to be closer together in a room. It's important to have on a face covering, to be washing your hands. So there's also a notice that DC Public Libraries has very good online options available. So people can go to www.dclibrary.org, and you can learn about the resources that are online at the public libraries.
And we've reached out to DPR, so we'll be happy to get back to you on that answer regarding the restrooms. Any other questions?
I do think, to the extent they're used, that it does present, I have talked a lot of times about, the ideal is washing your hands regularly with soap and water, but these are some of the circumstances where having hand sanitizer is very helpful in the event you're not going to be somewhere that you have access to soap and water, so that you can clean your hands with hand sanitizer. because you could come to within less than 6 feet of a person. The places where wearing masks is enforced is places like going to a grocery store, going into buildings. That's where they are enforcing you must have a mask on. So, you know, I pass by a building on my way here some mornings where it says you're not allowed in the building without a mask. You know, many restaurants where you go to carry out food require you to have a mask to come in. Grocery stores, you're required to have a mask. People are encouraged to wear masks when they are outside.
Again, if you have any questions and you dialed in, you can text 202-590-7618.
So for people who need to text, the number is 202-590-7618.
Hi, I would ask that whoever keeps muting Crystal Thomas 2 to please stop muting the line. Thank you.
Other thing that we wanted to talk about today is that what we noticed last week when we had our budget forum is that, you know, the interest and the questions are really very similar between what we have currently, a 10 a.m. call and a 12 noon call. One of the things that we were wanting to accomplish with our 10 a.m. call was to provide an opportunity for the people we support to get their questions answered. And we have worked that out now with Project Action, where we're going to be having a regular conference call with them. And so what we had planned was that going forward, beginning next week, we will have just one call at noon each Friday. And that will include community stakeholders as well as providers. So am I to understand that people couldn't hear what I was just saying?
Our interpreter is
He hears it.
interpreting.
Okay, I see someone saying it says Crystal is speaking, but there's no audio. Perhaps because it says Crystal is speaking, but it's me. So, it is now 11 a.m. That was a really quick hour. If Ms. Preston is still with us, I do want to thank her again. I just want to emphasize how important the information she shared was, and we will make sure that that information is shared with providers, because keeping people engaged and active and healthy is very important in terms of outcomes from this current public health emergency. And so thank you, everyone, and we will have a call, as I said, next week at 12 p.m., and it will include the whole group of providers as well as all stakeholders, and then we'll be doing a separate call for the self-advocacy community.